Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my January wrap-up. So this is all the books that I read and enjoyed, or didn't, in January. There are 12 books on this list, so let's get straight into it. I did a lot of rereads this month, and there was a purpose for this, so I am going to speed right past the first books on this list, because I'm pretty sure if you've been on this channel, then you'll have heard me talk about these books a lot in the past, and you don't really need to hear me talk about them again. So first up we have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars and enjoyed my reread. Then there's A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. This is my favourite book in the series, and of course I loved it. Then we have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. It made me cry a lot, you know, and there's no surprises here. Then we have A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, but I actually enjoyed it more than I did the last time that I read it. I think purely because having read A Court of Silver Flames, it made me reconsider some of the things that happened in this, and I really enjoyed it. No surprises here. Then I read A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. I actually gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, which is an increase on the previous rating that I had for it, which was 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I do briefly want to talk about this one because my opinions on this book changed so drastically. This book takes place after the 4 that I've just spoken about, and it follows Nesta Archeron and her story as she has a lot of trauma and tries to overcome it, and I absolutely adored this book. I don't know what is so different about this reread compared to the first time that I read it. I thought the first time that it was a bit too much focused on the trauma and the depression and too much focused on the sex, and the plot was left a little bit out of it. But on this reread, I didn't have that problem at all. I was like, this is great pacing. I'm really enjoying this. I do have a theory though, because I read Crescent City Book 1 before I read this one, but after I read those other 4. And I think it acted as a bit of a palate cleanser, because the first 4 books are kind of about the inner circle and Feyre, and you have a lot of Feyre's perspective in the first 3 at least. You sort of see everybody from her perspective, and it's really hard to go from Feyre's perspective straight to Nesta's perspective, because Nesta sees everybody so differently to Feyre, and it's almost like you're putting the two perspectives against each other, but you're already kind of biased towards Feyre and her opinions because you've been with her for 4 books at this point in time, so it's really hard to skip to Nesta after that. But when I put Crescent City Book 1 between them, which is the order that you're supposed to read these in, I just found it so much better, and I just was able to understand Nesta so much more, and I was like, what was I talking about the last time that I read this book? What was I thinking? Because it's so different, and I'm just like mad at myself for ever not experiencing this book to the degree that I could have experienced it. Anyway, I just loved this one, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm so glad that I reread it and had a different opinion, because like, it's so good. So I did just mention that I had read Crescent City Book 1, which was House of Earth and Blood, so here's this chunk. I am so happy that I finally picked this book up. It's been on my TBR for over a year. I've been actively trying to read it, and I've been avoiding it because it's so huge. And I tell you what, I'm so glad that I did, because I really liked it. I did have some problems with it, but I did reviews for this book, the second book, and the third book in the series, so you can go check those out if you want to hear my in-detail thoughts. But all I want to say about this one is that part 2 was slow and it annoyed me. I'm not really connected to any of the guy characters in this book, but Bryce is amazing and I love her. She had some purely epic moments in this book that I will not be forgetting anytime soon. Also, those last 200 pages really hurt, but in a great way, so, you know, give it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read House of Sky and Breath, which for some reason the name of this one just keeps eluding me, and I always am like, Hobas, but it's Hosab. I don't know what it is, but the name of this book just falls out of my brain even after I've just said it, so that's not great. Anyway, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's my least favourite in the series, and I just feel like it lost its way a little bit. There were a lot of plot points and characters that were irrelevant, and I was like, could have been better. But again, check out my review. I'll leave a link to all of these reviews in the description below if you actually care. But yeah, it was a good book, and obviously the end was like, okay. That's okay. And then finally we have House of Flame and Shadow, which is a very recent release. I did read this one the day that it came out, and I just stayed up till 5 AM to read it. I'm not going to spoil anything now, so don't worry about it if you haven't read it. I talk all spoilers in my review. I really like this, and I know a lot of people have some problems with it, and I also have some problems with it, but you know when you read something when it first comes out and you're involved in all the hype, and you just really enjoyed the experience of reading it, and I feel like my thoughts on this book were kind of impacted by the experience of being in the hype and just having inserted myself so deeply into reading all of these series and just enjoying it, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. There were definitely problems with it, but also I loved it. Okay, so now that the Sarah J Maas stuff is out of the way, let's move on to the other things that I read, which, to be honest, I'm sure you're all really happy to see because you're probably sick of my Sarah J Maas posts recently. Sorry about it, but I'm not really sorry, so... So first up we have Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. This one is another reread for me. It's book 3 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I have been slowly making my way through this series and just really enjoying it. I have such nostalgia for these. There were so many great moments in this and just like little bits that made me really happy to see. I enjoyed the fact that there were more consequences in this one. It seemed a lot more serious. Kronos is more active, and I really love the hunters. I like the concept of the never-aging band of girls that just go off and hunt forever and just forsake boys, because why not? I also like the fact that we got to see more gods in this one, with a particular focus on Artemis and Apollo. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was a manga, and it was Flying Witch Volume 11 by Chihiro Ishizuka. I've been making my way through this series, and this is the last volume that is out, so it was nice to actually be all caught up with this one. It was very cute. This is a slice of life, coming of age manga about a witch who's trying to learn how to use her powers, and she's got to stay with her cousins. There were also some really fun moments in this one, including a time freezing incident and a skeleton spirit with size control problems. I'm not going to elaborate, it was fun. Although I am sad this is the last one that's currently out, because they're really nice to just sort of pick up and smile about, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed them. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next up I picked up Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. This is a blast from the past for many people, I imagine, but it is the first time I read this book. It's been on my shelves for ages, and I was like, I should read this or get rid of it, because why is it there otherwise? Anyway, it turns out I probably should have got rid of it because I didn't really enjoy it, and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I will be honest though, this book was probably meant to be read in the 2010s, where all of the other paranormal romances of the same style were coming out, and also I'm not the target audience. I'm a 31-year-old woman. This is not made for me. I realise that. I probably wouldn't have thought it was so dumb when I was the target audience age, but wow, it was dumb. This book follows a teenage girl who gets paired up with a new lab partner in science class, and then like they're weirdly talking about sex and ideal mates and stuff, and I'm like, this is really creepy. Why are you talking about this in science at school? Stop that, it's weird. And then some people are trying to kill her, but she's like, are they trying to kill me, or is it just dodgy things? And then people are gaslighting her, and then she makes some wild jumps of logic, and she's like, you have wings? Because the love interest is a fallen angel, and then there's like another love interest that may also be a murderer, and her best friend is awful, absolutely awful, and yeah, I didn't like it. It's not for me, not for me at all. But I am not the target audience, but then again, I wouldn't recommend this to the target audience either. Maybe this should have stayed in the 2010s. Yeah, it really wasn't for me. 2 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I read in January was There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum? I'm gonna say Quantum. It's QNTM. I have to say that I really enjoyed this book, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it quite as much as I did. But I really like things that make you think, and I definitely had to keep my thinking cap on for this book because it definitely confused me. I'm not actually sure I'm smart enough to have read this book. There were definitely points in time where I was like, who's doing what now? What's happening? I'm still not sure I know, but let me try and explain what this book is about. So it's part of the SCP franchise. If you don't know what that is, go and look it up. It's an internet black hole that you will get lost down if you like creepy stuff. Now this follows a specific division in the SCP Foundation called the Anti-Memetics Division. And essentially they deal with information that most people can't process, or if they do process it, then they immediately forget that they have. It's like self-deleting information, and as a concept it is absolutely fascinating, and it starts off with like simpler things, and then there's like this greater threat that is uncovered, and then it gets a little bit like, I don't even know how the author of this came up with the way to fight the SCP that is like the bad guy for all intents and purposes in this book, because how do you fight something that once you become aware of it, it can kill you? And there's no getting away from it unless you forget that you ever knew about it. So then every time that somebody learnt about it, they had to immediately forget that they learnt about it, or else they would be murdered by it, and then they wouldn't be able to fight it. So it's fascinating. It really messed with my melon, but I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason I gave it 4 out of 5 stars and not 5 out of 5 stars is because I am a little bit too dumb to understand the full intricacies of this one, I don't know, I'd really recommend it. There were some really creepy bits in here as well. Some of these SCPs are just really creepy entities, and that's all I'll say about it. If you want to read this book, then I definitely recommend it, because it's like, wow. But like, keep your thinking caps on. I don't know, maybe you're smarter than me, maybe you wouldn't need to think about it so much, but like it did mess with me a little bit, but I still enjoyed it. So there we have it. Those are all the books that I read in January, and I just feel like I had a really, really good reading month. I know a lot of the things that I read were rereads or specifically just Sarah J Maas, but I read so many chunky books. There are at least like 5 books there that are over 700 pages long, and I'm like, wow, that's actually really impressive given my aversion to giant books, and I'm really proud of myself for that. I feel like I've started off the year really positively, not necessarily in terms of how many books that I read, but 12 is still a great number, but in terms of sort of getting myself over the fear of reading larger books. The fact that I read the entire Crescent City series has been something that has been like nagging at me to do for ages, and I've been avoiding it, like really avoiding that one, because I don't know, I was like scared of it or not, I don't know. But I did that, and also I managed to film reviews for it, which is one of my targets for the year, is to film more reviews of things that I've read. I say reviews, but they're more book talks where I just talk about all the things that happened, and it just comes out of me in like a stream of consciousness. So if you do actually watch those, I'm sorry, that is what the inside of my brain looks like. But anyway, if you made it to this part in the video, please leave me a moon emoji for Crescent City, because, you know, it just has to be done. And if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!